Okay. Man, we've been going through it today. Sound was wild. And it was funny, because I was monitoring on YouTube and YouTube was playing perfect. But I think I figured out what the issue was. I know the last couple of weeks I couldn't connect to YouTube, so I had to create a separate link for YouTube, and I had them both on. So YouTube was probably playing perfect and making everything else echo. So okay, Facebook good. I'm gonna check the other ones. We're gonna look at Twitch. Let's see how Twitch doing. Twitch, where you at? And I let go of Instagram. Instagram was giving me a headache, but people been saying they be having a hard time joining on Instagram anyway, so I'm not even tripping on it. Perfect. Twitch good. I never really find it on TikTok, but we're gonna try. Maybe it's my lucky day. And don't worry, family, we'll go over a little bit. Okay. TikTok sounds good. And we ain't on Instagram, so we in business now, y'all. Indeed. I'm crazy. All right. Give myself my own heart. I know y'all might hear echo now because my microphone picks up me listening to it in the background, but we in business. The music wouldn't stop playing. And I promise you, I had to cut off. I deleted the apps. I did all types of stuff. The music just kept playing. But glad to have you here. We're going to get it started this time. We are back reading The Alchemist. I hope that you all have had a great week. Because I don't know, we might knock out The Alchemist today, maybe. And we are on our throat chakra, throat energy point for communication. And actually, the color for, I decided what I'm going to start kind of trying to do with the lights is whatever chakra that we are on, I'm going to try to have lighting match that color. So for your throat, the color for your throat is light blue. So most of the lighting is light blue, but of course I always put something in front of me so you can see me a little clearly. That ain't quite light blue. I'm deciding on if I want to get up and get the throat bowl, because we definitely used it Tuesday, and I think it makes sense to have a throat bowl if we are on a throat chakra. So give me a second. Now I use whatever for everything else, but yeah, we already been this patient, so a little bit longer ain't hurt. Oh, shoot. Make no weird noises. We've already had enough with the sound tonight, so we should be over our sound issues. I got a new setup coming. I don't know if it'll be here next time, in time for next Thursday. It should. But hopefully it'll help with this table thing situation we got going on and make it a little bit better. Um, Thanks for your patience. I appreciate your help, Liberty. But I heard that I was trying to monitor it too. Um, yeah, and it's easier for me to check your text than answer the call. So, but it was crazy because YouTube was playing perfectly, and that's the one I was on. And yeah, but it happens sometimes. Technology has been acting crazy all day. I had trainings all day, and everybody's computer was going crazy. So, and somebody said they think it's something with the computer, but surprisingly, I'm supposed to have my internet speeds got increased today for free. Yeah, so I guess this is what we dealing with faster internet speeds. But we did the sun moon cleansing last time. I think I don't know. I feel like we haven't done 369 in a minute. So we are going to do that as the breathing exercise. So on my count of three, I want you to breathe in. We're gonna hold our breath for 3 seconds, then release. And we repeat that for 6 and 9 as well. So my count of three, breathe in. So 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. My count of three. Breathe in. Hold it for 6. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Hold it for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release. One last time. My count of three for 9. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. Hold it for 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and release. And remain in a comfortable position. You can keep your eyes closed or however you imagine. Allow yourself to imagine a little bit. The element for your throat is ether. And I think we did this before, but it is the easiest way for me to explain ether in a visualization. But imagine, on one of those hot summer days, and you can look down the street and you see the heat radiating off of the ground. So I want you to imagine yourself standing outside. You're looking down the road and you can see the heat radiating off of the ground. But that radiation that you see, the radiating heat, I want you to imagine it to be a shade of light blue. And I want you to begin walking closer to that light blue radiant heat, all the way up to you can grab it. And I want you to imagine you sticking your left hand into it, and then you sticking your right hand into it. And you just kind of leave both hands in the radiating heat, turning them around from flat to the side. And you feel the blue. You feel the waves connecting to you. Now I want you to imagine that you are grabbing the blue waves, and imagine that you can shape them into a ball. You can stretch it out like putty. Swing it around, twirl it in your hand. And as you are shaping this, I want you to shape the waves into healing words. Pick something like rejuvenation, authenticity, clear communication. And as you pick that word, I want you to imagine that you just kind of lay it across your neck and you rub it in and you feel it intertwining with your spirit and creating the energy you need to authentically communicate, to truthfully communicate, to openly communicate. I want you to imagine that that healing word is taking away fear and concerns of being misunderstood or seen as criticizing. And I want you to replace it with the confidence you need to clearly communicate honestly. And I want you to think about how you can best get the point across, but understand that is your release, and release yourself the pressure of having to force them to understand. And while you're there, just keep your hands on your neck for a little bit and imagine that blue radiant heat that you picked up. You're just laying it on your throat, on your neck. Take deep breaths slowly, methodically. Make your breaths in shorter than your breaths out. And I want you to repeat after me. I speak and hear the truth. I communicate honestly. I live an authentic life. I am fearless and free. I trust what I have to say. I speak and hear the truth. I communicate honestly. I live an authentic life. I am fearless and free. I trust what I have to say. And those are things that you can say to yourself to help replenish the energy of your throat and help build the confidence you need to communicate your feelings. Where are we now with the where are we? What's going on in the story? Um, Never mind. Oh man, I can't even remember. Really, that's crazy. I want to give you an update and how I don't remember. That's bananas. Forgive me. We blame it on my mind and not my heart for sure. Oh, somebody trying to be a hater said it sounded like I was building in a construction zone. It was pretty bad though, so I ain't even gonna hold you. It did sound bad. What is going on? We are. I did enjoy reading it sideways. It made a little hands free for me, and I appreciated that. So let's get to the book. Okay, I was reading my sigil book last, so it opened up. I'm glad tomorrow's Friday. You heard? I'm not even gonna lie to you. Oh Lord, that was so loud. I didn't turn the Alchemist. Read. We are. We got about 30 pages. I don't think we're gonna read 30 pages tonight, but I don't know. We may start something. Appreciate the follow. Smile for you. Join us Tuesdays. We do live energy readings, really focus on healing. But Thursday is book club. So, all right, here we go. What do you want here today? The desert asks him. Oh, that's right. He is about to turn himself into the wind for these tribal chiefs so that he doesn't. The alchemist said that he can turn himself, said the alchemist said that the boy could turn himself into the wind. And he offered the boy's life. The boy, if the boy can't do it, then the tribesmen, the warring tribesmen, can take his life. So now he just got them all sitting out there on Desert Hill, and he is trying to turn himself into the wind. So, what do you want here today? The desert asks. Didn't you spend enough time looking at me yesterday? Somewhere you are holding the person I love, the boy said. So when I look out over your sands, I'm also looking at her. I want to return to her and I need your help so that I can turn myself into the wind. What is love? The desert asked. Love is a falcon's flight over your sands, because for him, you are a green field from which he always returns with game. He knows your rocks, your dunes, and your mountains, and you're generous with him. The falcon's beaks carry bits of me, myself, the desert said. For years, I care for his game, feeding it with little water that I have, and then I show him where the game is. And one day, as I enjoy the fact that his game thrives on my surface, the falcons dive out of the sky and take whatever I've created. But that's why you created the game in the first place, the boy answered, to nourish the falcon. And the falcon then nourishes man. And eventually, man will nourish your sands, where the game will once again flourish. That's how the world goes. So is that what love is? Yes, that's what love is. It's what makes the game become the falcon become the man, and the man in his turn the desert. It's what turns lead into gold and makes gold return to the earth. I don't understand what you're talking about, the desert said, but you can at least understand that somewhere in your sands there is a woman waiting for me, and that's why I have to return myself into the wind. The desert didn't answer him for a few moments. Then it told him, I'll give you my sands to help the wind blow, but alone I can't do anything. You will have to ask for help from the wind. A breeze began to blow. The tribesmen watched as the boy from a distance, talking among themselves in a language that the boy couldn't understand. The alchemist smiled. The wind approached the boy and touched his face. It knew of the boy's talk with the desert because the winds know everything. They blow across the world without a birthplace and with no place to die. Help me, the boy said. One day you carried the voice of my loved one to me. Who taught you to speak the language of the desert and the wind? My heart, the boy answered. The wind has many names. In that part of the world, it was called Sirocco because it brought the moisture from the oceans of the east. In the distant land the boy came from, they call it the Levanter because they believe that it brought the sands of the desert and the screams of the Moorish wars. Perhaps in the places beyond the pastures where sheep lived, men thought that the wind came from Andalusia. But actually, the wind came from no place at all, nor did it go any place. That's why it was stronger than the desert. Someone might one day plant a tree in the desert and even raise sheep here, but never would they harness the wind. You can't be the wind said. We're two very different things. That's not true, the boy said. I've learned the alchemist's secrets in my travels. I have inside of me the winds, the deserts, the oceans, the stars, and everything created in the universe. We were all made by the same hand, and we have the same soul. I want to be like you, able to reach every corner of the world, cross the seas, blow away the sands that cover my treasure, and carry my voice to the woman I love. I heard what you were talking about the other day with the alchemist, the wind said. He said that everything has its own personal legend, but people cannot turn themselves into the wind. Just teach me to be the wind for a few moments, the boy said. So you and I could talk about the limitless possibilities of people and the winds. The wind's curiosity was aroused, something that had never happened before. It wanted to talk about those things, but it didn't know how to turn a man into the wind. And look how many things the wind already knew how to do. It created deserts, sank ships, felled entire forests, and blew through cities filled with music and strange noises. It felt that it had no limits, yet here was a boy saying that there were other things the wind should be able to do. This is what we call love, the boy said. Seeing that the wind was close to granting him his request. When you are loved, you can do anything in creation. When you are loved, there is no need at all to understand what's happening because everything happens within you. And even men can turn themselves into the wind as long as the wind helps, of course. The wind was a proud being and was becoming irritated with what the boy was saying. It commenced to blow harder, raising the desert sands. But finally, it had to recognize that even making its way around the world, it didn't know how to turn a man into the wind, and it knew nothing about love. In my travels around the world, I've often seen people speak of love, looking toward the heavens. The wind said, furious at having to acknowledge its own limitation, maybe it's better to ask heaven. Well then, help me do that, the boy said. Fill this space with a sandstorm so strong that it blots out the sun. Then I can look into the heaven without blinding myself. So the wind blew with all the strength, and the sky was filled with sand. The sun was turned into a golden disk. At the camp, It was difficult to see anything. The men of the desert were already familiar with that wind. They called it the summum, and it was worse than a storm at the sea. Their horses cried out, and all their weapons were filled with sand. On the heights, one of the commanders turned to the chief and said, "Maybe we had better end this." They could barely see the boy. Their faces were covered with blue cloths, and their eyes showed fear. "Let's stop this," another commander said. "I want to see the greatness of Allah," the chief said with respect. "I want to see how a man turns himself into the wind." But he made a mental note of the names of the two men who had expressed their fear. As soon as the wind stopped, he was going to remove them from their command, because true men of the desert are not afraid. "The wind told me that you know how to love," the boy said to the sun. "If you know about love, you must also know about the soul of the world, because it's made of love." "From where I am," the sun said, "I can see the soul of the world. It communicates with me, and together we cause plants to grow and sheep to seek shade. From where I am, and I'm a long way from the earth, I learned how to love. I know that if I came even a little bit closer to the earth, everything there would die, and the soul of the world would no longer exist. So we contemplate each other, and we want each other, and I give my life and warmth, and it gives me my reason for living." "So you know about love," the boy said, "and I know of the soul of the world, because we have talked at great lengths to each other. It tells me that my greatest problem is that, up until now, only the minerals and vegetables understand that all things are one, that there's no need for iron to be the same as copper or copper the same as gold. Each performs its own exact function as a unique being, and everything would be a symphony of peace if the hand that wrote all of this stopped on the fifth day of creation. But there was a sixth day," the sun went up. "You are wise because you observe everything from a distance," the boy said. "But you don't know about love. If there hadn't been a sixth day, man would not exist. Copper would always just be copper, and lead would just be lead. It is true that everything has its personal legend, but one day that personal legend will be realized. So each thing has to transform itself into something better and to acquire a new personal legend until someday the soul of the world becomes the only thing." The sun thought about that and decided to shine more brightly. The wind, which was enjoying the conversation, started to blow with greater force so that the sun would not blind the boy. "This is why alchemy exists," the boy said, "so that everything would search for its truth, would search for its treasure and find it, and then want to be better than he was in his former life. Lead will play its role in this world till it has no further need for lead, and then lead will have to turn itself into gold. That's what alchemists do. They show that we strive to become better than we are. Everything around us becomes better too." "Well, why did you have to say that I don't know about love?" the sun asked boy. "Because it's not love to be static like that, the desert, nor is it love to roam the world like the wind. And it's not love to see everything from a distance like you do. Love is the force that transforms and improves the soul of the world. When I first reached through it, I thought the soul of the world was perfect. But later, I could see that it was like other aspects of creation, and it had its own passion and wars. It is we who nourish the soul of the world, and the world we live in will either be better or worse, depending on whether we become better or worse. And that's where the power of love comes in, because when we love, we always strive to become better than we are." "So, what do you want from me?" the sun asked. "I want you to help me turn myself into wind," the boy answered. "Nature knows me as the wisest being in creation," the sun said. but I don't know how to turn you into the wind. Then whom should I ask? The sun thought for a minute. The wind was listening closely and wanted to tell every corner of the world that the sun's wisdom had its limitations, that it was unable to deal with this boy who spoke the language of the world. Speak to the hand that wrote it all, said the sun. The wind screamed with delight and blew harder than ever. The tents were being blown from their ties to the earth, and the animals were being freed from their tethers. On the cliff, the men clutched each other as they sought to keep from being blown away. The boy turned to the hand that wrote it all. As he did so, he sensed that the universe had fallen silent, and he decided not to speak. A current of love rushed from his heart, and the boy began to pray. It was a prayer that he had never said before, because it was a prayer without words of please. His prayer didn't give thanks for his sheep having found new pastures. It didn't ask that the boy be able to sell more crystal, and it didn't beseech that the woman he had met continued to await his return. In the silence, the boy understood that the desert, the wind, and the sun were also trying to understand the signs that were written by the hand, and were seeking to follow their own paths and to understand what had been written on a single emerald. He saw that the omens were scattered throughout the earth and in space, and that there was no reason or significance attached to their appearance. He could see that not the deserts, nor the wind, nor the sun, nor the people knew why they had been created, but that the hand had a reason for all of this, and that only the hand could perform miracles or transform the sea into a desert or a man into the wind, because only the hand understood that it was larger design that had moved the universe to a point at which 6 days of creation had evolved into a master work. The boy created the soul, the boy reached through the soul of the world and saw that it was a part of the soul of God. And he saw that the soul of God was his own soul, and that he, a boy, could perform miracles. You heard? The simum blew that day as it had never blown before. For generations thereafter, the Arabs recounted the legend of a boy who had turned himself into the wind, almost destroying a military camp in defiance of the most powerful chief of the desert. When the simum ceased to blow, everyone looked at the place where the boy had been, but he was no longer there. He was standing next to a sand-covered sentinel on the far side of the camp. The men were terrified at his sorcery, but there were two people who were smiling: the alchemist, because he had found his perfect disciple, and the chief, because that disciple understood the glory of God. The following day, the general bade the boy and the alchemist farewell and provided them with an escort party to accompany them as far as they chose. They rode for the entire day. Toward the end of the afternoon, they came up on a Coptic monastery. The alchemist dismounted and told the escorts that they could return to camp. From here on, you will be alone, the alchemist said. You are only 3 hours from the pyramid. Thank you, said the boy. You taught me the language of the world. I only invoke that you already knew. He already knew. The alchemist just wound up helping him recognize his gift. He was scared to death, though, at first. The alchemist knocked on the gate of the monastery. A monk dressed in black came to the gates. They spoke for a few minutes in Coptic tongue, and the alchemist bade the boy to enter. I asked him to let me use the kitchen for a while, the alchemist smiled. They went to the kitchen at the back of the monastery. The alchemist lighted a fire, and the monk brought him some lead. which the alchemist placed in an iron pan. When the lead had become liquid, the alchemist took from his pouch a strange yellow egg. He scraped it from it the silver as thin as his hair, wrapped it in wax, and added it to the pan in which the lead had melted. The mixture took on a reddish color, almost the color of blood. The alchemist removed the pan from the fire and set it aside to cool. As he did so, he talked with the monk about tribal wars. I think they're going to last for a long time, he said to the monk. The monk was irritated. The caravans had been stopped at the Giza for some time, waiting for the wars to end. But God's will be done, the monk said. Exactly, answered the alchemist. When the pan had cooled, the monk and the boy looked at it, dazzled. The lead had dried into the shape of a pan, but it was no longer lead, it was gold. Will I learn to do this someday? The boy asked. This was my personal legend, not yours, the alchemist answered. But I wanted to show you that it was possible. They returned to the gates of the monastery. There, the alchemist separated the disc into four parts. This is for you, he said, holding one of the parts out to the monk. It's for your generosity to the pilgrims. But this payment goes well beyond my generosity, the monk responded. Don't say that again. Life might be listening and give you less next time. The alchemist turned to the boy. This is for you, to make up for what you gave to the general. The boy was about to say that it was much more than he had given to the general, but he kept quiet. He had heard what the alchemist said to the monk. That's that art of being able to receive. We struggle with that. And this is for me, said the alchemist, keeping one part, because I have to return to the desert where there are tribal wars. He took the fourth part and handed it to the monk. This is for the boy if he ever needs it. But I'm going in search of my treasure, the boy said. I'm very close to it now, and I'm certain you'll find it, the alchemist said. Then why this? Because you have already lost your savings twice, once to a thief and once to the general. I'm I'm an old superstitious Arab, and I believe in proverbs. There's one that says everything happens once can never happen again, but everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. They mounted their horses. I know that's right. They say they come in threes. I like that. I wanted to tell you a story about dreams, said the alchemist. The boy brought his horse closer. In ancient Rome, at the time of Emperor Tiberius, there lived a good man who had two sons, one in the military and had been sent to the most distant regions of the empire. The other son was a poet and delighted all of Rome with his beautiful verses. One night, the father had a dream. An angel appeared to him and told him that the words of one of his sons would be learned and repeated throughout the world for all generations to come. The father woke from his dream, grateful and crying because life was generous and had revealed to him something any father would be proud to know. Shortly thereafter, the father died as he tried to save a child who was about to be crushed by the wheels of a chariot. Since he lived his entire life in a manner that was correct and fair, he went directly to heaven, where he met the angel that had appeared in his dream. You were always a good man, the angel said to him. You lived your life in a loving way and died with dignity. I can now grant you any wish that you desire. Life was good to me, the man said. When you appeared in my dream, I felt that all my efforts had been rewarded because my son's poems will be read by men for generations to come. I don't want anything for myself, but any father would be proud of the fame achieved by one whom he had cared for as a child and educated as he grew up. Something in the distant future that I would like to see my son's words. The angel touched the man's shoulders, and they were both projected far into the future. They were in immense settings surrounded by thousands of people speaking a strange language. The man wept with happiness. I knew that my son's poems were immortal. He said to the angel through his tears, "Can you please tell me which of my son's poems these people are repeating?" The angel came closer to the man and with tenderness led him to a bench nearby where they sat. "The verses of your son, who was the poet, were very popular in Rome," the angel said. "Everyone loved them and enjoyed them. But when the reign of Tiberius ended, his poems were forgotten. The words you're hearing now are those of your son in the military." The man looked at the angel surprised. "Your son went to serve at a distant place and became a centurion. He was just and good. One afternoon, one of his servants fell ill, and it appeared that he would die. Your son had heard of a rabbi who was able to cure illnesses, and he rode out 4 days and days in search of this man. Along the way, he learned that the man was seeking the Son of God. He met others who had been cured by him, and they instructed your son in the man's teachings. And so, despite the fact that he was a Roman centurion, he converted to their faith. Shortly thereafter, he reached the place where the man he was looking for was visiting. He had told the man that one of his servants was gravely ill, and the rabbi made ready to go to his house with him. But the centurion was a man of faith, and looking into the eyes of the rabbi, he knew he was surely in the presence of the Son of God. "And this is what your son said," the angel told man. "These are the words he said of the rabbi at that point, and they have never been forgotten. 'My Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word and my servant will be healed.'" The alchemist said, "No matter what he does, every person on earth plays a central role in the history of the world, and normally he doesn't know it." The boy smiled, and he had never imagined that questions about life would be such of importance to the shepherd. "Goodbye," the alchemist said. "Goodbye," said the boy. The boy rode through the desert for several hours, listening avidly to what his heart had to say. It was his heart that would tell him where his treasure was hidden. "Where your treasure is, there also will be your heart," the alchemist had told him. But his heart was speaking of other things with pride. It told a story of a shepherd who had left his flock to follow a dream and had on 2 different occasions. It told of a personal legend and of the many men who had wandered in search of distant lands or beautiful women, confronting the people of their times with their preconceived notions. It spoke of journeys, discoveries, books, and change. As he was about to climb yet another dune, his heart whispered, "Be aware of the place where you are brought to tears. That's where I am, and that's where your treasure is." Ooh, excuse me. The boy climbed the dune slowly. A full moon rose again in the starry sky. It had been a month since he had set forth from the oasis. The moonlight cast shadows through the dunes, creating the appearance of a rolling sea. It reminded the boy of the day that the horses had reared in the desert, and he had come to know the alchemist. The moon fell on the desert silence and on a man's journey in search of treasure. When he reached the top of the dune, his heart leapt. There, illuminated by the light of the moon and the brightness of the desert, stood the solemn and majestic pyramids of Egypt. The boy fell to his knees and wept. He thanked God for making him believe in his personal legend and for leading him to meet a king, a merchant, an Englishman, and an alchemist. Above all, for having met his woman of the desert who had told him that love would never keep a man from his personal legend. If he wanted to, he could now return to the oasis, and go back to Fatima and live his life as a simple shepherd. After all, the alchemist continued to live in the desert. Although he understood the language of the world and knew how to transform lead into gold, he didn't need to demonstrate his science and art to anyone. The boy told himself that on the way towards realizing his personal legend, he had learned all he needed to know and had experienced everything he might have dreamed of. But here he was, at a point of finding his treasure, and he reminded himself that no project is complete until its objective has been achieved. The boy looked at the sands around him and saw that where his tears had fallen, a scarab beetle was scuttling through the sand. During his time in the desert, he had learned that in Egypt, scarab beetles are a symbol of God. Another omen. The boy began to dig in the dune. As he did so, he thought of what the crystal merchant had once said, that anyone can build a pyramid in his backyard. The boy could see now that he couldn't do so if he placed a stone upon stone for the rest of his life. Throughout the night, the boy dug at the place he had chosen, but found nothing. He felt weighted down by the centuries of time in the sand since the pyramids had been built, but he didn't stop. He struggled to continue digging as he fought the wind, which often blew the sand back into the excavation. His hands were abraded and exhausted, but he listened to his heart, and it had told him to dig where his tears fell. As he attempted to pull out the rocks he encountered, he heard footsteps. Several figures approached him. Their backs were to the moonlight, and the boy could see neither of their eyes or their faces. "What are you doing here?" one of the figures demanded. Because he was terrified, the boy didn't answer. He had found his treasure. He had found where his treasure was, and was frightened at what might happen. "We're refugees from the tribal wars, and we need money," the other figure said. "What are you hiding there?" "I'm not hiding anything," the boy answered. But one of them seized the boy and yanked him back out the hole. Another, who was searching the boy's bags, found a piece of gold. "There's gold here," he said. The moon shone on the face of the Arab who had seized him, and in the man's eyes, the boy saw death. "He's probably got more gold hidden in the ground." They made the boy continue digging, but he found nothing. As the sun rose, the man began to beat the boy. He was bruised and bleeding. His clothes was torn to shreds, and he felt that death was near. "What good is money if you're going to die? It's not often that money can save someone's life," the alchemist said. Finally, the boy screamed at the man, "I'm digging for treasure." And although his mouth was bleeding and swollen, he told his attackers that he had twice dreamed of treasure hidden near the pyramids of Egypt. The man, who appeared to be the leader of the group, spoke to the others. "Leave him. He doesn't have anything else. He must have stolen this gold." The boy fell to the sand nearly unconscious. The leader shook him and said, "We're leaving." But before they left, he came back to the boy and said, "You're not going to die. You'll live, and you'll learn that a man shouldn't be stupid. 2 years ago, right here on this spot, I had a reoccurring dream too. I dreamed that I should travel to the fields of Spain and look for a ruined church where shepherds and their sheep slept. In my dream, there was a sycamore growing out of the ruins of the sacristy, and I was told that if I dug at the roots of the sycamore, I would find a hidden treasure. But I'm not so stupid as to cross an entire desert just because of a recurrent dream." And they disappeared. The boy stood up shakily and looked once more at the pyramids. They seemed to laugh at him, and he laughed back, his heart bursting with joy, because now he knew where his treasure was. Okay. We're on the epilogue now, so let's see what's cracking. The boy reached the small abandoned church just as night was falling. The sycamore was still there in the sacristy. and the stars could still be seen through the half destroyed roof. He remembered the time he had been there with the sheep. It had been a peaceful night, except for the dream. Now he was there not with his flock, but with a shovel. He sat looking at the sky for a long time. Then he took from his knapsack a bottle of wine and drank some. He remembered the night in the desert when he had sat at the Alchemist as they looked at the stars and drank wine together. He thought of the many roads he had traveled and of the strange way God had chosen to show him his treasure. If he hadn't believed in the significance of recurrent dreams, he would have never met the gypsy woman, the king, the thief, or, well, it's a long list. But the path was written in it, in the omens, and there was no way that he could go, excuse me, but the past was written, and there was no way that he could go wrong, he said to himself. He fell asleep, and when he awoke, the sun was already high. He began to dig at the base of the sycamore. You old sorcerer, the boy shouted up to the sky. You knew the whole story. You even left a bit of gold at the monastery so I can get back to this church. The monk laughed when he saw me come back in tatters. Couldn't you have saved me from that? No. He heard the voice on the wind say, if I had told you, you wouldn't have seen the pyramids. They're beautiful, aren't they? The boy smiled and continued digging. Half an hour later, his shovel hit something solid. An hour later, he had before him a chest of Spanish gold coins. There were also precious stones, gold masks adorned with red and white feathers, and stone statues embedded with jewels. The spoils of a conquest. What? The spoils of a conquest that country had long forgotten, and that some conquistador had failed to tell his children about. The boy took out Urim and Thummim from his bag. He had used the two stones only once, one morning when he was at the marketplace. His life and his path had always provided him with enough omens. He placed Urim and Thummim in the chest. They were also part of his new treasure because they were the reminder of the old king, whom he would never see again. It's true. Life is life really is generous to those who pursue their personal legend, the boy thought. Then he remembered that he had to get to Tarifa so he could give 1/10 of his treasure to the gypsy woman, as he had promised. Those gypsies are really smart, he thought. Maybe it was because they move around so much. The wind began to blow again. It was the lavender, the wind that came from Africa. It didn't bring with it the smell of the desert, nor the threat of Moorish invasion. Instead, it brought the scent of a perfume he knew well, and the touch of a kiss that came from far away, slowly, slowly, until it rested on his lips. The boy smiled. It was the first time she had done that. I'm coming, Fatima. Okay, that's it. Oh, boop, 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 boop. Well, that was real cute. The next part is just a snippet of his other book called The Warrior of Light. We haven't read that. I don't know what we're gonna read next, honestly, family. I think I've been thinking about the Celestine Prophecy. It sticks on me. I think it's a good addition to this book, and it talks about the 9 key insights of life. But one aspect I really want to talk about that I think is good is they really start discussing control mechanisms, and I want to discuss that too. But The Alchemist was a good book to me. I definitely think it serves as an inspirational type of story. And it really does show you how you have to be willing to bet on yourself. Know that there are times that you are going to be tested and tried, and if you give up, really the only person that loses is you. So um I feel like it gives you inspiration to feel like you shouldn't be afraid to dream. You know what I mean? And I like the fact that it shows that one, we are all connected. You take some time, you pay attention to the signs, you can pick up on it. And I do like that the universe conspires for your success when you begin to chase after your personal legend. I love the idea of a personal legend. Um, Essentially, that's what we're doing here, Soul Family. We are creating somewhat of our own personal legend, and honestly, I appreciate everything that we do together. I appreciate this opportunity that we are afforded. You know what I mean? And I'm thankful that you all see the importance of what a unified energy can do. Because I'm sure since we first started Soul Swami, first started doing the lives and talking about healing and allowing books to help draw these connections for us, we have slowly changed over the years. Terrence, brother, I appreciate you being in here as always. Strength and brotherhood in the building. So you know you appreciate it. But yeah, I think we are developing tools that allows us to navigate our life authentically, and in a way that feels true to us. Sister-in-law, I see you. I appreciate you. Happy belated. Um, I hope you got everything you wished for and more. So I appreciate you again. So yeah, I got a brother, I got a sister. My brother married, my sister was married. Only one out. I told you I'm the middle kid out of my family, but the only one who hadn't been married is myself. So, but we working on that though. That's one of my personal legends. So I know the universe is conspiring, but I know in my personal legend, I've said I've only want to do it once. So there is an idea that sometimes you got to measure twice to cut once. So it takes a little time, but it's a good goal to have. Doo, doo, doo. So see you Tuesday. We had if you got some time and you want to see what like the energy readings are like, we did one last Tuesday. Tuesday that just passed, not last Tuesday like the week before, but last Tuesday that just passed. You get to about the 30-minute mark and it starts somewhere after that. But most of the show was about the energy reading. And I think going forward on Tuesdays, I'm gonna start making sure I put the link into the chat. So if we have anybody that would like to have an energy reading, then you have the opportunity to also join the live. Just make sure you're in a place that's well lighted so we can see you. And we do try to create a safe space. So if there are some things that we wind up discussing that may not be for public consumption, for a lack of better words, then that is something that we discuss privately. So definitely don't put your business out. Like Tuesday, we got to one where she was dealing with some sexual issues, inadequacy, and things like that. But we didn't discuss it. We just pointed it out. We didn't discuss it on live. Let me correct that because I do make myself available to people if they want some coaching. You know what I mean? But I hope you have a great weekend. This weekend I think I'm gonna try to find me a new stone. We are having a place where I got this stone. As a matter of fact, I did buy the stone from there. So where I got this stone is having a sale. So I'm going to check on them. I really need another ring. I need something to match the balance it out. Give me something for that finger too. But go to a gym sale. And that's why I'm outside this month. So if you have some time, love to see you on Tuesday. If not, we'll see you here Thursday. And we will start a new book. I think I'll make a post. I don't know, because I'm still torn between what book I want to do. But again, I appreciate you. And I wish you the best. And I will see you next week. You know, I hate having to do all this because it's supposed to be an app that I can use to help me navigate this. But you saw what happened when I was using the app today. We had a time, you did. But I thank you again. Appreciate your patience.